amount to be approximately $192,000 per year, be and hereby adopted by Culpeper Township Board of Trustees for presentation to the county clerk for inclusion on November 25 special election ballot. A copy of the resolution, the township minutes from what would be tonight's meeting, in which is considered a record of the vote of the resolution, and the ballot proposal would then be forwarded to the county clerk. And then we would get it put together for the ballot. Originally it was said it would be a lot of money, and when I went and talked to the county clerk, Mrs. Zanatti, it was made clear they just had 5 precinct vote, Essexville, Hampton, and it was just over $6,000. So she said, I don't see where this would be that huge expense. It wouldn't exceed that. You only have 1 precinct. And I said, yep, we have 1 precinct now. We no longer have 2. So we have a precinct and absentee. And she pointed out, she said, I understand your office is a lot of new people. And she said, surrounding townships, you could talk to their election workers, since in Culpeper. At this point, we don't really have a lot of election workers. And surrounding townships we could hire them to assist us to run this election, which could take place as soon as November and could be on our tax bills. So that this year we could actually collect the millage, and then the fire department would be fully funded. We would have only lost 1 year's operations, but the people would make the decision. I thought that was a good thing, and that's why I made the recommendation.
Well, I'll follow up with that and say it's not just that the people make the decision at first, right, when you approve the millage. It's the fact that when you compare these two things, if a special assessment goes into place, then the board makes the decision to raise it. Now, the obvious truth here is that if we do 1 mil, you're locked into the amount based on the Headley Amendment that the taxable value is able to go off, which is based on a cap of 5% or the rate of inflation. Typically, we don't hit the 5% except for the last few years. We hit it a little bit, but I won't get into that. But that said, it stays the same and it goes along with your taxable value. With the special assessment, if it is approved, the board sets how much is coming out of this. So you don't have a say once it's in place. We can actually go after, if we chose, the actual expenses. Now, fire departments are not money makers. Fire departments cost money. So if this were to go into place, rather than having to go and seek a new millage to raise the amount that is being assessed, the board would decide year after year how much it's going to be. So that's what Charlie's referring to when he's saying that it's in front of the people when we do it as a millage. Second argument on that would be that when this was last discussed in front of this board, it was passed by the most minimal margin, in part because one of the arguments, I should say, was that because we are seeking restitution because of being in this situation with the previous attorney who abruptly resigned after that, if we were to switch tracks and go to a special assessment, it could potentially cause a little issue with us seeking restitution for what we lost, because then we're switching tracks. We're not replacing like with like at the earliest convenience. We're actually completely changing how we are recouping that money. It is a completely different animal. It is a lot of work, and it is a lot of expense as well to go with a special assessment, but once it is in place, it is removed from the people's hands to a large extent.
Doesn't people still elect the board? So if they don't like what the
Years
board's
later,
doing,
yeah. Years later.
this is
So,
what they elected us to. I know we don't have question and answer, but we kind of do. You said a couple thousand to do this for our precinct. Possibly.
Well, we'd have to pay our workers,
Yep.
but you must remember, we're in the middle of a lawsuit, and whatever is going into this, once again, is a proportion of the expense when we start saying, you know, okay, yeah, we lost $182,000 worth of millage money. But not only that, but we just had an election that cost us, say, $3,850. And so that's also a part of the restitution game. When you sit down and you're saying, well, this is what it cost in that election.
Okay.
So you can get, just like our legal fees, you know, those are all a part of your expense. You never get every nickel back. But it's all a part of what you come up with as to your final settlement.
So what fees do you see incurring for special assessment would be my question as a taxpayer versus?
We've already had almost $1,000 in legal bills.
And then there's mailings that have to take place, we have to hold meetings for that. We
4
have
more
to produce
meetings.
a lot of information, it would have to be produced every year to actually validate how much is being charged to the people, to make sure that we're recouping.
What townships
expenses.
around us? I know Auburn Williams is a special assessment district.
I think Bangor is.
Northern Bay is. I think theirs is a little different than this. but
Northern
I
Bay is
believe
kind of
Northern
quite
Bay
more
is.
different.
Northern Bay can't even compare to special assessment because they levy $100 per household and that's it.
Yeah.
They don't levy it based on tax, it's $100 per household. So,
I'm just confused on a statement that you made. It's not fair. So if we are going with a special assessment, that's clearly that piece of paper that you have right in front of you.
Mhm.
That's the legal binding of, it's locking it in, right? So where in that does it say that if we do it one time, we're like, now we're doing it like this all the time? Like, I just want to understand that part. That's,
Are you saying that if the special assessment were to go through
Right.
for this time period,
right.
where does
Now
it say
we're always
locking it
gonna
in?
be locking it in as that is the way that we go about this and
Well,
not put it on the next.
It
Because
would,
that's why we said the 3 years.
We
so
did
it
say
could
the 3
go
years.
on the next.
but potentially we could
Yeah.
say, well, this fire department is costing us a lot more money, and so now we're gonna try to recoup more of those losses. You could potentially do that, and
Okay.
there's already been discussion about
Legally,
that.
you can actually next year sit down and say, I'm sorry, but we miscalculated this and we need 1.5 mils. And so we collect 1.5 mils next year. And the very next year, we could say, you know what, fire department needs to have more space, which we all do know it needs more space. But guess what? So then
15 years overdue.
you sit down and you say, well, because that amount can be reset. That's the difference in assessments versus millages. The millage locks the amount, that's it. The people say you get 1 mil, 3 years, end of discussion. Assessments get changed. We sit down and we change assessments already on an annual basis.
So as a taxpayer and voting person, I would assume the assessment would be better off for our fire department. Every time our fire department has had a millage, it has passed overwhelmingly. Our community supports our fire department. I was here 15 years ago as a firefighter. The building is severely outdated. I've been to smaller communities with way bigger facilities that are a lot nicer. Special assessment would help our fire department come to this day and age, would it not? Because if next year you four and the absent fifth person decided let's do a station upgrade, we won't have to go around and do another building assessment, or what do you call them, your thing? Millage for a building. You could just out the special assessment to cover a new station or a station upgrade, correct?
I would not vote to do that.
Yeah, my opinion is this is just to get to the next presidential election, like Mr. Shane would refer to it last meeting.
Okay.
That gets the popularity of the people here. So we went with that recommendation, and it was a very well thought out recommendation. I do appreciate that. But we will not be, I believe, this board be raising the millage for the terms that we're here. I believe that this fire assessment is still a millage according to our attorney, and he feels the same way your statement was. The people voted us overwhelmingly into these spots to make decisions for them. This is no different than many of the other decisions within this township. I mean, if you were to go to the county level and see this amount of money, add it 20 times, on decisions, They vote those people in to make those decisions and make them right. So it's understood both sides here, and I respect both sides. I want this to be in the people's hands in the future at the next presidential election. I do. If they want to raise it to 1.5, the citizens, I want to see the citizens raise it to 1.5. But right now, we are not collecting more than 1 mil, and that's what the people voted on.
So the special assessment is equal to 1 mil?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
And this is, I'm just gonna say what I was hung up and I was on was that we keep on saying we had one of the best election turnouts, even for our entire county. Like, everybody really showed up, everybody really came to the polls and really gave their voice. And it won with, what, 77%?
Of
That
those that
people,
voted.
of those that voted.
Those that voted.
Right. So, and just hear me out, okay? That was a pretty special thing, and I feel like it brought into a lot of people's hearts to go to the polls. Now, with a special election, how many people are going to be taking off of work? How many people are going to be getting a babysitter? How many people are we going to have the turnout to have the majority voice that I'm supposed to be representing here in this chair? I don't know, and that scares me, and that is just my piece on that.
So I'll share the third piece.
Okay.
Here's the third piece. We don't do this, and we don't do that. We do what we always have. We continue to fund that fire department. Next year's a governor's election, which will have a very high turnout. And we just, because you know what? We're paying their wages, and we have. And Steve works on, we talked earlier today, a grant coming in for this and a grant for that. We've always supported our fire department. We keep supporting our fire department. And then next year, we ask for the millage. That's our option 3. And I believe option 3, since there seems to be a large divide, may be the best.
We've already voted this one through.
No, which one? We didn't
One
vote
at the
it
last
through.
meeting.
No, what we said,
Brian said that he would listen to what you find for the millage and stuff. You brought that to the table in my office at the end of the day.
correct,
on
because there was
Thursday.
nothing handed out to nobody, so you're saying that means nothing, is what you're saying.
No. How long did it take me to put that on the agenda, Mr. Campbell?
No, I'm just
How long
asking a
did it take?
question, Mr. Eddie.
How long did it take? Instantly, didn't it?
It was put on the agenda.
Instantly.
But to say that this is like just a
And I showed you
shoe-shoe,
where, and then today it turned into something where it wasn't in the right place, and I said instantly, we will change it. What are you looking to motion here?
well, to put it bluntly, right now, I actually think we'd be a split board. So at this point, I would vote that this would then,
Make a motion to move forward with a resolution for the millage to be placed on a special election with the county clerk.
I will second it.
Okay, roll call vote. Eddie, no. DeShano,
Yes.
Schlander,
No.
Campbell.
Yes.
Can I ask a quick question? I was at the last meeting and I thought, regardless of where I'm at with it, I thought we passed the assessment 3-2. So that means that the assessment is the assessment and there is no other option.
That is
Correct.
not how that was
That
laid
was
out.
not how that was expected to be, and I would have to re-listen to the tape recording.
No, it wasn't.
It was a 3-2
It was-
vote, that's
it
all.
wasn't- it wasn't-
Oh, absolutely.
Because this affects this affects
I
me
understand.
on the other side of that station over there.
And we talked about, we
Order.
were entertaining it.
Okay, new business.
No, backward. We're going backward a moment because those legal bills regarding the special assessment need to be turned over to the special counsel that is suing Smith and Brooker, because they aren't turned over. There's about $700 worth of specials here, not counting what was in the previous months. So I make a motion to make sure and inform the legal counsel in reference to suing Smith and Brooker what all of our additional expenses are that have not been reported, period. Because we have 4 more meetings, plus all the legal that already took place, and people say it's a shoo-in. Well, it can be a shoo-in then, but, you know, that's your choice.
I have no problem with getting reimbursed, Mr. Campbell.
So that's the motion.
I'll second that.
Okay.
I,
Roll call. Campbell,
Yes.
Schlander,
yes.
Eddie, yes. DeShana,
Yes.
Jane, do you get that motion?
I'll get it.
Okay, the land split application for the Door property. After reviewing this, with trustee Campbell, found on the GIS some access issues, but Tom Door and Fritz Door and Miss Raymaker, their sister, clarified that it was St. Bartholomew Evangelical Lutheran Church had given them a grant of easement to that property off of Fraser Road. I do believe, Jeremy, your dad is the one who was on this deed. So,
I make a motion to accept the land split with the Door family. Tom Door, Dan Door, Michelle Raymaker.
I'll second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Land split, Malin.
Make the motion to accept the land split with Malin.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain. Senior Center remodeling proposals.
Who all turned
This
in
is,
estimates?
I will have to let you know when I open, but I believe, New Adventure, it's the first one. I believe the guy's name is Josh, who was here. And he came and got the prints. There's the emails. He's got 2 options. So the total estimated cost of the project, $59,938.66.
How much you need?
$59,938.66. And then he's got 2 options to add $2,620.80 to remove existing insulation and add 2-inch closed cell foam insulation. This was not included in the written RFP, but the request for the insulation was confirmed by Brad Eddy. Option 2, at $400, remove and replace existing cabinetry and countertops. The RFP asks for both to be refinished. After a comparison of the cost, we found that it is more cost effective to replace the countertops and a minimal cost to replace the cabinetry with new ones. We recommend new in both instances.
So $59,938 includes new countertops and new cabinets.
No,
No.
No, it's
no, that's,
Plus 400 to replace instead of refurbish the countertops, and plus 2,000 to remove them and replace all the insulation.
No, they said take out the cabinets.